You're looking at me like you've got a problem or something. Acting up here don't really mean to me unless you're going to fight me here now.
I don't think that Jake would have enough time, seeing as he's already undersized. He's not a real heavyweight, and this is Anthony fucking Joshua we're talking about.
Take a punch, really. If he takes a big punch from Jake Paul, if he gets hurt in any way by Jake Paul, if he doesn't absolutely ice Jake Paul within a few rounds of this 8-round scheduled bout, well, then it really affects his...
The fiery press conference was merely the opening chapter in the ongoing debate surrounding Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua. As the dust settled, analysts across the sport stepped in, breaking down the risks and deeper implications of this unlikely matchup. Among the most outspoken was legendary trainer Barry McGuigan, whose criticism carried the weight of decades spent in the presence of world-class punchers. McGuigan underscored the very real fear that seasoned fighters would feel standing across from a man like Anthony Joshua. He reminded the public of a truth every veteran in the sport understands. One clean shot can redraw the entire landscape of a fight. And in a scenario like this, that single moment could turn dangerously decisive.
Some people are saying, you know, AJ's grabbing the bag. There's nothing wrong with that because anybody else, if they got offered that kind of money, they would do it. So, yep. And some people are suggesting he might damage his legacy. Where do you sit with the decision of him taking that fight? And it's a professional 8-round fight as well.
Yes, it's a highly dangerous fight for Jake Paul. I don't know what he's doing, unless they have done some sort of caveat or some sort of agreement that he says he's going to go easy on him, or he's not going to go flat out. But, you know, I've been tossing this up and down in my mind and trying to figure how and under God, when he had agreed to fight someone like Tank Davis, who is, you know, several divisions below him, that's more like what Jake Paul does. And then he goes from there to fighting Anthony Joshua. I mean, just look at what happened to Francis Ngannou, who's a big, athletic, tough guy and had gone 12 rounds with Tyson Fury and given him a real ding-dong. And then he gets absolutely obliterated in a round and a half against Joshua. That shows you, despite the fact that he's been knocked out since by Daniel Dubois, who could knock out anybody, by the way, in any weight division or in any era of the heavyweight division. He's such a powerful guy. He could knock anybody out if he hits them properly. But you know,
Wade, host of the Wade Concept podcast, has revealed that Jake Paul's so-called secret weapon for the Anthony Joshua showdown has finally come to light. According to Wade, Paul has been sparring with a lineup of full-sized heavyweights specifically chosen to mirror Joshua's stature, reach, and seasoned experience. These sessions are designed to expose Jake to genuine heavyweight force while refining his timing, composure, and tactical responses. By working with fighters who emulate Joshua's physical and technical profile, Paul is attempting to harden himself for the very real, very unique challenges that await him once the bell rings.
Anthony Joshua fight, if you're Jake Paul, who hasn't fought someone in the top, realistically, the top 50. I know Tommy Fury is ranked in the top 50, but anyone that is a top 50 fighter, even in your weight class, let alone a top 10, top 5 heavyweight in Anthony Joshua, who was a 2-time heavyweight champion of the world. Can you get prepared for a guy like that if you brought in, let's just say, a deity, freaking Zeus, Hercules, whoever, to prepare you? Could you do it? I don't think that Jake would have enough time, seeing as he's already undersized. He's not a real heavyweight, and this is Anthony fucking Joshua we're talking about. But I will say there were rumors going around that Jake was not taking this fight as seriously as he needed to. That Jake was dilly-dallying, flying to go see F1 in Miami after his press conference, and then going to see his girl all the way in the Netherlands if she's trying to qualify for, I think, the Olympics or something else. There was this post from his girlfriend. I don't know if, again, this was in the Netherlands or where it was at, or maybe this is an old picture, but Jake flying around the world when he has a fight in about 4 weeks is probably not the greatest look, and it doesn't seem to make it look like he's taking it as serious as he needs to, locked away in the gyms of Puerto Rico. Now, again, that could have been a different picture. That could have been something else, but that's pretty shocking to see. With that being said, I want to push back on that because I do think Jake is taking this as seriously as he absolutely needs to, because this is not only the toughest fight of his career, it's the most dangerous to the longevity of his career, to his health and well-being. And so to do something like that, you need to bring in the best help possible to get ready. We already heard that Jake Paul was preparing for Anthony Joshua by sparring the guy that Anthony Joshua was about to fight in Cassius Chaney. This gentleman right here, who was 24-3 from B-More, aka the DMV, and apparently is a top 100 heavyweight, even though it doesn't say he's actually a top 100 heavyweight. That was what he was being marketed as.
Spencer Oliver, former professional boxer and respected analyst, views the upcoming Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul matchup through a distinct and thought-provoking lens. Speaking on a panel of seasoned experts, Oliver argues that this fight represents far more than competitive stakes. It carries a symbolic weight for the sport itself. He draws a striking parallel to the era of Muhammad Ali, reminding viewers that Ali often embraced unconventional matchups that captured the public's imagination and pulled new audiences toward boxing. In Oliver's view, if Joshua proceeds with this bout, he steps into a moment reminiscent of those Ali spectacles, where entertainment, curiosity, and athletic legitimacy collide. Such a matchup could draw in viewers who rarely watch traditional heavyweight contests, while testing Joshua's discipline and focus in a scenario far outside the usual championship framework. Oliver suggests the fight marks a cultural crossroads for boxing, bridging the divide between longtime purists and a new digitally driven generation. His comparison to Ali's unconventional showcases highlights how high-profile crossover bouts can widen the sport's global reach. By taking this challenge, Joshua engages a broader demographic, including younger fans who follow Jake Paul primarily through social media, creating a ripple effect that may elevate boxing's visibility worldwide. This surge of crossover interest brings with it expanded commercial potential, increased revenue streams, fresh sponsorship opportunities, and renewed mainstream attention. Analysts argue that the cultural impact of this matchup may prove just as significant as anything that happens inside the ring, positioning it as a landmark event in boxing's ongoing evolution.
Pops him a few times in the face, walks out of 150 million quid. No one will remember the fact he fought Jake Paul. They'll remember the fact he knocked Klitschko out in Wembley in 2017.
Totally agree with that.
So I'm kind of, whilst I don't like it, and I don't like the way that Jake Paul gravitates to these brilliant athletes and like a moth sucks the life out of them because he gets a benefit of association, because I think they deserve all the association. But he is a and there is opportunity there, isn't there?
Listen, commercially, of course it works because it'll be huge and there'll be a load of money on the table. And for Anthony Joshua, it's like sort of, you know, he's going to get rewarded very well with no risk, minimal risk, no risk at all. He's going to go in there and he may then put all this stuff to bed with Jake Paul and calling out all these different champions, etc., etc. So, of course it works. And when you're talking about, you know, the credibility that Joshua's going to get, he's not going to get none now, but are people going to remember that? Of course they're not. Like, when he goes on to do what he does, didn't Muhammad Ali have some sort of strange fight in the middle of his career? Didn't he box? Yeah, he did. He boxed some non-boxing guy and whatnot. Like, people don't remember that. That's what I'm saying. Look, us as boxers, we don't remember stuff like that.
It was replicated in Rocky. So, he did a version of Fighting Thunderlips, didn't he?
Veteran boxing commentator Gareth A. Davies has voiced sharp and urgent concerns about the safety implications surrounding this matchup. He points to the glaring weight gap and vast difference in experience between the two fighters, arguing that this contest pushes the outer limits of what should be sanctioned inside a professional ring. Davies stresses that a full-intensity bout could become dangerous in an instant, especially if Joshua connects early with a clean, concussive shot. From his vantage point, the novelty of a social media figure stepping in against an established heavyweight may draw headlines, but the physical risks embedded in such a clash make the entire proposition deeply questionable. Analysts like Davies insist that regulators and promoters must scrutinize every layer of safety protocol, because the consequences of misjudging a fight of this magnitude could be severe for both men involved.
As I am with you, there is a danger in this fight. The odds are, Joshua's 1 to 12. obviously. Jake Paul is 6-1, yeah, to win this fight in a 2-horse race in which this is a guy who lost to Tyson Fury's brother, in an 8-round fight, who, for me, I wrote that it would damage his legacy a week ago. It will damage his legacy for several reasons. If the Deontay Wilder fight never emerges, which it looks like it isn't, I've been calling for that fight for ages. If those two got in a ring together, it's still a massive fight. It's a dangerous fight to sanction, in my view. It sets the wrong precedent. It is 10-ounce gloves. It is a boxing match. It's not an exhibition. This isn't a 58-year-old Mike Tyson. This is one of the most dangerous finishers in the world, who is probably 5 levels above Jake Paul and a weight division above him. I think it's irresponsible to let those two in a ring together in a proper boxing match. That's my view. It doesn't damage his bank balance, but if he earns...
Boxing analysts Angelo and Josh deliver a detailed technical breakdown of the matchup, evaluating both fighters through the lenses of experience, skill, and natural physical ability. In their assessment, Jake Paul, despite his courage and willingness to step into deep waters, simply does not belong in the same tier as elite heavyweights such as Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder. Joshua and Wilder occupy a rare echelon of the sport, a class defined by timing, precision, and catastrophic power, attributes capable of altering a fight's trajectory in a single heartbeat. Angelo and Josh emphasize that these qualities are not manufactured overnight. They are forged through years of relentless training, innate physical gifts, and the kind of elite refinement that fighters outside the heavyweight pedigree cannot replicate. They point out that bravery, while admirable, is not the same as mastery. And although Paul's confidence stands out, it cannot replace the instinct, preparation, and seasoned intuition that true heavyweight professionals carry with them into the ring.
At the highest level, and I don't think he beat the top 5, top 6 guys. But that in that weight class is where he'd be at, like say 180, 188 or 189, somewhere around there is where he'd probably compete. There's not a lot of talent there though. So he might be pretty good in those weight classes. Him competing in the heavyweight division against like Deontay Wilder or Anthony Joshua or anybody else, no. He gets annihilated. I'm very surprised he signed this fight.
I was shocked he signed this fight. I texted my buddy Bo, because Bo follows boxing really well, and I texted him. I was like, dude, we might see a death. And he said the same thing. He's like, I cannot believe he agreed to that fight. But the numbers, the numbers that are, nobody knows the true payouts. They're saying it's around $200 million that they're splitting evenly. So they're getting about $100 million each. He said that it was $267 million. So I don't know who you believe or don't believe, or it could be they're splitting 200 and the 67 delta, they had to pay DAZN because Anthony Joshua has a contract with DAZN. And this fight's going to be on Netflix. DAZN.
It's DAZN.
So they, which makes, how the hell?
Please stop saying DAZN, okay?
DAZN.
That's like Saint Benoit, okay?
Where's the O in DAZN?
It's DAZN.
Well, there's no O or no E at the end either. But so they basically had to buy Anthony Joshua his permission.
Henry, a respected boxing analyst, contends that the dangers surrounding this matchup are not entirely one-sided. While much of the conversation centers on the risks Jake Paul takes by entering the ring with a seasoned champion, Henry argues that Anthony Joshua also carries real vulnerabilities into this fight. Even the slightest lapse in judgment or a moment of complacency could give Paul an unexpected opening, one that, regardless of the final result, could stain Joshua's reputation. For a fighter of Joshua's stature, anything short of a dominant, near-perfect performance risks being viewed as harmful rather than validating. The analysts highlight that this is not a guaranteed showcase for the former heavyweight king. Both men step into the spotlight with reputations, public perception, and pieces of their professional legacy on the line. In that sense, the stakes extend far beyond a simple win or loss.
Because even if Joshua wins this fight, it has to be perfect. There cannot be a moment of hesitation from Anthony Joshua. He can't look mentally shot. He can't take a punch, really. If he takes a big punch from Jake Paul, if he gets hurt in any way by Jake Paul, if he doesn't absolutely ice Jake Paul within a few rounds of this 8-round scheduled bout, well then it really affects his credibility. All the things that have ever been said about him, he's a hype job, he's been coddled. He didn't really want to fight Deontay Wilder when they were both in their prime. He's just a big bodybuilder, as Tyson Fury loves to put it. Anyone who's ever doubted him will have absolute ability to do so. And so the fact that this is actually a sanctioned fight, it tells me that Anthony Joshua cannot be going in there, or will not go in there and try to carry Jake Paul. Otherwise, it might as well just be an exhibition. If he does go in there and carry Jake Paul, my fear for him is that most people will not be aware that that's what he's doing. Reputationally, it would just cause serious damage. And like I say, I think the only way he comes out of this unscathed, reputationally, is by going in there and securing a clean knockout. Anthony Joshua can't do anything to boost how people view him as a boxer in this fight. All it can do is damage him unless he's punch perfect. He's fighting someone who realistically has nothing to lose and absolutely everything to gain. And that in itself can be dangerous, it can be risky. And given that Jake Paul has achieved so little, given that Anthony Joshua wants to remain relevant and credible, so it seems, because he has a couple of potentially big fights left, especially against Tyson Fury, why is he doing this? He doesn't want to jeopardize that, surely. Well, I can tell you exactly how I think he has rationalized this in his mind. The first thing is that he's going to get paid an absolute shed load of money. Around 50 million is what we're hearing. I've heard 50 million pounds, 50 million USD, but whatever happens, it's a significant amount of cash. Possibly one of his, will be one of his highest ever career paydays, possibly similar to what he'd make for a Tyson Fury fight. But for what? Like 1% of the risk?
Promoter Eddie Hearn breaks down both the strategic and financial layers of this matchup, outlining why the offer placed before Anthony Joshua is nearly impossible to turn down. Hearn points out that Joshua has already conquered virtually every major milestone available in the heavyweight division. At this point in his career, a payday of this magnitude becomes a sensible consideration, one that dramatically surpasses the earnings of a standard championship bout. Hearn presents the decision as a calculated business move, reminding viewers that in boxing, timing and opportunity often merge with financial incentive. For Joshua, this fight is no longer about proving necessity. It's about leveraging his stature to maximize reward while staying firmly in the public eye. The result is a matchup that blends sport, spectacle, and economic strategy, reflecting the modern reality of big fight boxing.
And looking likely for December, what can you tell?
Yeah, not yet. I mean, there has been conversations, obviously. I think it comes down to how true, they are. Jake Paul is that he actually wants to fight. I mean, he's a madman if he wants to fight. But for some reason, and he thinks he can beat AJ. And I have to be honest, we were going to have a run out in December, over 8 rounds against a bloke you've never heard of. And we may end up having a run out against Jake Paul for a career high payday. I don't see how we can turn it down.
When I asked you about it a couple of days ago, you said at that time you never really got into the financials. Have those been discussed now? Have you discussed the financial element?
There has been some conversations around that, and it is, it's a huge amount of money. And I think AJ would be mad if he didn't do it, and I think he will do it if Jake Paul is genuine. We may wake up tomorrow with these people and they've announced another fight. Honestly, anything could happen. So I still can't get my head around the fact that this guy wants to challenge AJ. There's some respect to him if it's true, but we shall see.
To end on that note, I spoke to Alfie Sharman earlier. He said that himself or DAZN have had no conversations about AJ potentially taking that fight. Obviously, AJ is exclusive to DAZN. What's the situation with regards to that? Because I know they'd want it.
Apparently the fight's done. Obviously, it's not done because those conversations have to take place. I'm very confident that I can have some positive conversations with DAZN. Obviously, we'll be on a clock, but it's a 50-50.
Last one from me. I saw Chris McKenna tweeted that Anthony Joshua currently doesn't have a British Boxing Board of Control licence. Obviously, it's not unusual for someone who isn't fighting currently and is inactive to let it run out. But he would have to apply for one to face Jake Paul again. And then
Former world champion David Haye underscores the fundamental unpredictability that defines boxing. He cautions that even with Joshua standing as the overwhelming favorite, no result is ever assured once the opening bell sounds. Haye reminds fans and fighters alike that underestimating an opponent, no matter their resume or how unconventional their path may be, can produce outcomes that defy expectation. While he fully acknowledges the scale of the challenge confronting Jake Paul, Hayes stresses that every professional must respect the danger any opponent brings into the ring. That element of uncertainty injects a layer of tension into this matchup, ensuring that both the audience and the fighters themselves remain alert, engaged, and wary from the first exchange to the final moment.
So the fact that December Miami might be on?
Yeah, jumping from Gervonta Davis all the way up to Anthony Joshua seems absurd. It doesn't seem like it's a reality.
Seems very Jake Paul.
It seems, but you know, sometimes these crazy things. Who would have ever thought Francis Ngannou would get a shot against Tyson Fury? When we first started talking about it, it's like that's never going to happen. And when it did, we saw Tyson Fury have a very, very tough night, get knocked down and scrape through on points. Anything's possible in boxing. I think the chances of Jake Paul beating Anthony Joshua, I don't know. He's got a very, very low chance. I can't see any way that Jake Paul can win a boxing match with 10, 12-ounce gloves on with Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua, you know, world champion, silver medalist, Olympic gold medalist, two-time heavyweight champion. He's a top 10, top 5 in some people's arguments, heavyweight, and he hasn't gone that far over the hill. He's not Mike Tyson, nearly 60 years old. I can't see it happening, but if it can happen and AJ wants it, then obviously it's going to be a massive, massive payday as well as a massive spectacle. It'll be an absolute crush box office numbers, and unfortunately for Jake, that will be potentially his last fight in boxing.